If you loved watching 80s cartoons, you might think those funny and wild characters were all made up. But guess what? Some of them were secretly based on real people. Yep, rock stars, actors, and even the creator's own friends and family showed up in cartoon form without anyone knowing. From heroes with real-life faces to villains copied from bosses in the studio, these stories are crazier than the shows themselves. And wait till you see number 1. It's so close to the real person, fans couldn't believe it wasn't on purpose. So grab your popcorn, stay till the end, and get ready to see your favorite cartoons in a whole new way. If you love finding hidden secrets from old shows, hit subscribe, drop a comment with your favorite 80s cartoon, and check out the DVD box sets below to watch the classics again. At number 7, Muppet Babies.
When you room looks kinda weird and you wish that you weren't there.
Just close your eyes and make believe, and you can be anywhere.
Now, this one might surprise you the most. Muppet Babies looked like just a cute show with baby versions of Kermit, Piggy, Fozzie, and the gang. But these tiny puppets were secretly based on real people behind the scenes, and even on the real Jim Henson himself. Jim Henson, the creator of the Muppets, always said that Kermit was his alter ego. So when the team made Muppet Babies, baby Kermit was designed to look like Jim as a child. Kind, curious, and always trying to keep everyone calm. Look at Kermit's wide eyes and gentle smile. That's how people described Jim when he worked in the studio. Miss Piggy's baby version? That was inspired by one of the real Muppet performers, Frank Oz's childhood stories. He said Piggy's a mix of confidence and chaos that came from the girls he knew growing up. And the cartoon team exaggerated that into baby Piggy's sassy sparkle. And here's the sweetest part. The nanny character, the woman you only saw from the knees down, was based on a real nanny from one of the producer's childhood homes.
Hi, kids.
Hi, Nanny.
I thought you might like to play with this for a while.
Yay! Oh, boy! Wow, neat! Yippee skippy!
She always wore colorful socks, just like in the cartoon. They never showed her face to keep her a mystery, but that small detail came straight from real life. The animators also put themselves in the show. Some baby background characters were drawn to look like the artist's own kids. They'd sneak in tiny faces, hoping no one noticed. Muppet Babies worked because it wasn't just a cartoon. It was a love letter to real childhood, real people, and the imagination that Jim Henson believed every kid had inside. Every character had a spark from someone real. Did you grow up watching Baby Kermit and Piggy too? Who was your favorite little Muppet? Tell me in the comments, and if you still have the old VHS tapes or DVDs, treasure them. They hold more real stories than most people ever knew. At number 6, Doc Brown, Back to the Future animated. When Back to the Future got turned into a cartoon in 1991, people were excited to see Doc Brown again. The wild scientist with crazy white hair and eyes that looked like they'd seen every timeline in history. But what many didn't know was that Doc wasn't just a cartoon. He was Christopher Lloyd, the real actor, brought to life again in animation. And the cartoon version copied him down to the eyebrows.
I was just about to test the say, Mr. Tannen. Might I use you as a guinea, offer you a hot dog?
The creators didn't just want a silly cartoon. They wanted to keep Doc's real energy. Christopher Lloyd even appeared in live-action clips at the start of each episode. He'd talk to the audience, jump into his DeLorean, and then, boom, turn into his cartoon self. Kids didn't even know how clever that was. It was like Doc had stepped out of the movie and into Saturday morning TV. Even the voice was based on him. Though Lloyd didn't voice all the episodes, they picked an actor who could copy his manic, shouting energy perfectly. The hand gestures, the wild hair flips, the way he yelled, "Great Scott!" all copied from Lloyd's real movements on set. And here's something funny. Doc's cartoon assistant looks suspiciously like the real animators who worked on the show. They used their own faces as quick models when they didn't have time to invent new designs. So every time you saw a random background scientist, you might have been looking at a real studio worker in disguise. Even Doc's car, the DeLorean, wasn't just an object. It was based on a real prototype model from the 80s. The animators visited an actual DeLorean just to see how the doors opened and the lights flickered. That's why the cartoon car looked almost photorealistic at times. It came from the real deal. So next time you remember Doc zooming through time with his kids and Einstein the dog, remember, you weren't just watching fiction. You were watching a cartoon built from real people, real energy, and a real love for science and chaos. Which Doc do you remember better, the movie one or the cartoon one? Drop your pick below. At number 5, the Real Ghostbusters team. When the Real Ghostbusters cartoon came out, kids thought it was just about 4 funny guys catching ghosts. But the truth? The cartoon team was based on real people, and the clues were right in front of everyone's eyes.
Egon, we need more equipment.
Not to mention a plan.
You don't understand. We can't let him get away. We've got to close off that portal.
Egon, the tall one with the blonde hair and big glasses, wasn't just a random look. He was based on Harold Ramis, the man who played Egon in the movies. But here's the twist. The cartoon Egon looked nothing like the real Harold. The animators didn't just want to copy the actor's face. They gave Egon the wild hair and nerdy style of the movie's real-life writer, J. Michael Straczynski. That's right, Egon looked more like the man who wrote his lines than the man who played him. Then there's Peter Venkman. Everyone remembers his smooth voice and cool attitude. But if you noticed, he didn't sound like Bill Murray from the movies. That's because he was voiced by Lorenzo Music, the same man who voiced Garfield the cat. And it gets even funnier. Years later, Bill Murray became the voice of Garfield in the Garfield movies. It's like a cartoon time loop no one planned. Ray Stantz, the happy one with the round face, was modeled after Dan Aykroyd, who played him in the movies, but with softer features, more like a kid's cartoon hero. And Winston, the calm, brave one, was inspired by Ernie Hudson, except the animators never told him they changed the design. Hudson even auditioned to voice his own cartoon self, and didn't get the part. It's wild to think that the Ghostbusters we grew up watching weren't just drawings. They were real people's reflections, twisted through the funhouse mirror of animation. Every smirk, every hairstyle, every laugh came from the real actors behind them. Did you know all that? Or did you just think they were random cartoon heroes? Let me know in the comments if Egon or Peter was your favorite. At number 4, Lion-O from ThunderCats. Back in the 1980s, every kid wanted to be a hero, but few were as wild, brave, and confusing as Lion-O, the half-lion leader of the ThunderCats. He had muscles, claws, and that giant glowing sword, the Sword of Omens.
Thunder! 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 ThunderCats! Ho!
But behind the roar and lightning, Lion-O wasn't just a made-up Catman. He was secretly inspired by real-world myths, and even a little science gone wrong. You see, long before ThunderCats hit American TV, Japanese stories were told of the Raiju, the thunder beast made of lightning that took the form of cats and wolves. People believed that when lightning struck the ground, a Raiju had leaped from the clouds. Sound familiar? That's Lion-O, a thunder beast from space born in light and storm. The show's creators never officially confirmed it, but fans have noticed the clues for decades. Lion-O also mirrors the classic 1980s action hero archetype, part kid, part soldier. At the start of the show, Lion-O's body ages into adulthood, but his brain stays 12 years old. That's why he acts so immature. He's literally a child trapped in a hero's body. Suddenly, his hot temper and goofy mistakes make sense. Even his voice has history. Larry Kenney, the man behind Lion-O, gave him that dramatic tone. Half Superman, half teenager. And here's the fun twist.
I am Lion-O, Lord of the ThunderCats. I command you to halt, Snow Cat.
Years later, when the show got a reboot, the same actor came back, but this time he played Lion-O's father. The hero became the dad. Talk about a full circle moment. And here's a detail most fans never knew. The producers hired a psychologist to read every ThunderCats script. His job? To make sure each episode had a moral lesson. So even when Lion-O was swinging his sword and yelling, "ThunderCats ho!" you were secretly learning about leadership and growing up. Crazy, right? The hero of the skies was based on ancient lightning beasts and old-school action stars, and even taught kids how to be good people. But speaking of secret inspirations, the next cartoon character didn't come from ancient myths. He came straight from the shadows. At number 3, Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget. If you watched Inspector Gadget as a kid, you probably remember 2 things: Gadget's silly voice and that terrifying metallic hand on the chair. But the man behind that claw? That was Dr. Claw, the faceless villain who made millions of kids shiver. The twist? He wasn't an original idea at all. He was based on a real person. Well, almost.
Gadget doesn't even suspect we're here. He's in for a surprise, isn't he, Mad Cat?
Dr. Claw was inspired by one of the most famous villains in movie history, Ernst Stavro Blofeld, the bald mastermind from the James Bond films. In those early Bond movies, you never saw Blofeld's face, only his hand stroking a white cat. That mystery made him even scarier. The makers of Inspector Gadget saw that and thought, what if we turned that movie villain into a cartoon bad guy, but for kids? So they did. They gave Dr. Claw a metal glove, a deep growling voice, and a cat named Mad Cat, a perfect copy of Blofeld's cat. You never saw his face, only his hand tapping the chair. The suspense worked so well that it became one of the most famous hidden faces in animation. Frank Welker, who voiced hundreds of famous cartoon characters, like Megatron from Transformers, gave Dr. Claw his deep, thunderous growl. It was so scary that producers actually toned it down for younger viewers. But here's where things get wild. When Inspector Gadget got turned into a live-action movie, the writers gave Dr. Claw a backstory. His real name? Skolex. He was a billionaire inventor who lost his hand in an explosion and replaced it with the claw. The accident gave him reason to hate Gadget forever. Still, the mystery stayed alive. Fans have argued for decades about what Dr. Claw's face looks like. One toy line even revealed his face by mistake, but it looked too normal, and fans refused to believe it. And just like Blofeld, Dr. Claw became the model for many villains after him. Dr. Evil in Austin Powers, Baron Greenback in Danger Mouse, and countless parodies. Every time you see a villain petting a cat, you're looking at Dr. Claw's legacy.
Well, you haven't seen the last of Dr. Claw, Gadget.
He was proof that sometimes what you don't see is what scares you the most. And while Dr. Claw ruled the shadows, our next 80s icon ruled the stage, with pink hair, glitter, and rock star power. At number 2, Jerrica Benton from Jem and the Holograms. When Jem and the Holograms first hit TV, it looked like a wild fashion fantasy. Big hair, neon lights, and pop music everywhere. But behind the pink glam and sparkle, Jerrica Benton, the woman who became Jem, was secretly inspired by real-life pop queens of the 80s, like Debbie Harry from Blondie and Pat Benatar. You see, Jerrica wasn't just a cartoon. She was a reflection of the MTV era, when rock met fashion and women ruled the stage. Like those real singers, Jessica lived 2 lives. By day, she was a businesswoman running a record label. By night, she turned into Jem, a glittering pop star with a secret identity. Her story wasn't just about fame, it was about the pressure of being 2 people at once. She was strong, but insecure, talented, but jealous of her own alter ego. When her boyfriend started falling for Jem instead of Jerrica, fans saw something real. The pain of being unseen behind your own image. And here's the fun part. The show's creator, Christy Marks, used real-world details to make everything feel authentic. Synergy, the hologram computer Jerrica's dad built, was inspired by real synthesizer technology that was exploding in the 80s.
I can project 600 holographic images a minute without power loss. Please do not worry.
My father sure knew what he was doing when he built you.
Even her stage makeup and fashion were modeled after the big icons of the time. Debbie Harry's edgy eyeliner, Pat Benatar's leather jackets, and Madonna's daring colors. The show also took cues from real MTV videos, fast cuts, neon lights, and powerful all-girl band vibes. It was basically a cartoon version of the MTV Revolution. And here's a hidden gem, pun intended. Some episodes were secretly written around real songs that were later swapped for originals due to rights issues. So if some tunes in the background sound familiar, you're not imagining it. Behind all the sparkle, Jem and the Holograms was really about identity. How being famous can blur the line between who you are and who the world wants you to be. That's why fans say Jem was truly outrageous, not just for her music, but for how real she felt. At number 1, April O'Neil from TMNT. Every kid who watched Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in the 80s remembers her. The woman in the yellow jumpsuit, microphone in hand, always running straight toward danger while shouting, "Turtles, help!" April O'Neil wasn't a superhero, but she felt like one. She was smart, brave, and somehow always right in the middle of whatever wild chaos Shredder or the Foot Clan caused that week. But here's something most fans never realized. April O'Neil wasn't just made up. She was secretly based on a real person, and not just inspired by someone either. According to TMNT co-creator Kevin Eastman, April was literally named after and modeled on his girlfriend at the time, April Fisher. Yes, you heard that right. April O'Neil, the fearless reporter from Channel 6 News, started out as April Fisher.
Ninjas, a 1,000-year-old clan of assassins. Is it possible they're here in the city? We're at Technology Central to answer that question.
The fearless girlfriend behind the scenes of the Ninja Turtles creation. Eastman even said her mixed-race look in the early comics was based directly on Fisher, though his co-creator, Peter Laird, always saw her as white. The result? One of the longest-running debates in cartoon history. What race was April O'Neil really supposed to be? But that wasn't the only identity confusion. Believe it or not, April wasn't even a news reporter at first. In the original 1984 Mirage comics, she was a computer programmer working for the mad scientist Baxter Stockman, the same guy who would later turn into a mutant fly. So, how did a lab assistant turn into the most famous cartoon journalist of the decade? Thanks to the 1987 animated series. When the showrunners needed a way to connect kids to the Turtles' world, they reinvented April as an investigative reporter for Channel 6. Suddenly, her yellow jumpsuit, camera crew, and fearless attitude made her a perfect fit for the Saturday morning lineup. That yellow suit, by the way, not random. It was inspired by Fujiko Mine from the Japanese manga Lupin 3, another clever, confident woman who could charm her way out of danger. The showrunners basically gave April Fujiko's fashion sense, swapped the red for yellow, and boom, an icon was born. But let's talk about the rumor that keeps TMNT fans arguing to this day. Some say April was more than just a character inspired by Eastman's girlfriend. She was a love letter. The timing lines up.
Make yourself comfortable, Miss O'Neil. You may be here a very long time.
Eastman and Fisher were dating when he co-created the Turtles. April O'Neil appeared soon after. She was beautiful, sharp, and had a heart of gold. The kind of person who believed in the Turtles when no one else did. In a way, she was the human soul of the show. Maybe Eastman didn't just draw a character. Maybe he drew the person who believed in him. And over time, April kept evolving. In later versions, like the IDW publishing comics, she became even more complex. Part scientist, part journalist, and the daughter of two truth seekers, a scientist dad and a reporter mom. She wasn't just running toward danger for the scoop. She was trying to uncover the truth, just like her parents. It was one of the first times April got real depth, showing why she was drawn to stories that others were too scared to touch. So next time you see April dodging lasers and chasing leads in that bright yellow jumpsuit, remember, she's more than a side character in a mutant turtle world. She's a mix of pop culture, anime influence, and real-life love story all rolled into one. And here's the fun part. What do you think April O'Neil really is? A fearless reporter, a tech genius, or a secret symbol of her creator's muse? Tell me in the comments and be honest, because behind every great hero team, there's always that one human who keeps them grounded. And in the case of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, that human just happened to be based on a real woman named April. So, what did we just uncover? Turns out the faces we grew up watching weren't just random drawings. They came from real people walking around in the real world. Artists, actors, friends, even family members who somehow turned into the heroes and weirdos of Saturday mornings. Every wild grin, every crazy hairstyle, every catchphrase had a real story behind it. One that most of us never knew existed. Kinda changes how you see your favorite characters now, doesn't it? Now tell me, which one of these real-life origins shocked you the most? And who should I cover next time? The voice behind your favorite 80s villain? Or the real person who inspired a cartoon crush? Drop your pick in the comments, hit that like button, and if you want to help keep these hidden stories alive, tap Super Thanks, or grab a classic cartoon DVD from the links below. Because here at Backstage Tales, we don't just watch the shows, we dig out the truth hiding under the ink. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.